Bethlehem, a little more than 2,000 years ago. 3 wise men go across the desert following a particularly shining star. According to their calculations, the star would lead them to the King of the Jews, who has just been born. They find him at a stable. His name was Jesus, and in less than 3 decades he would revolutionize the history of the world. In Judea reigned Herod the Great, who would die after a moon eclipse without being able to explain what was the star that would change the course of humanity. 20 centuries later, it is still discussed whether it was a supernova, a comet, the conjunction of several planets, or a rain of shooting stars, or the divine intervention, what led the wise men to their destiny. 20 centuries later, the gods' astronomers examined the sky looking for answers. In the south of the United States, in the very desert of Arizona, at the top of a mountain, a cutting-edge telescope points to the sky. This is the Mount Graham International Observatory, a modern astronomical study center created by a consortium of universities, observatories and investigators which the Vatican Observatory belongs to. Father José Funes, a graduate in astronomy at Córdoba University in Argentina, and who then got his PhD in Padua, is now the director of the observatory.
El telescopio Vaticano es uno de los más modernos. Fue hecho con tecnología avanzada, por eso que se llama Vatican Advanced Technology Telescope.
Despite they are Jesuits, the men who are working there don't wear cassocks. They've exchanged the silence of the temple for the solitude of the office, and instead of the habit and the cross, they use satellite pictures and spreadsheets. 2,000 years after Bethlehem, they are also after a mystery.
Estamos en una situación de privilegio, en el sentido que por una parte tenemos una formación científica que nos hace creíble en el mundo de la ciencia, porque si no hiciéramos investigación, lo que pueda decir no es creíble, y al mismo tiempo con una formación teológica y espiritual que nos permite, yo diría, hacer de puente entre el mundo de la ciencia y la Iglesia.
These Jesuits, who look at the sky, are God's astronomers. They search for vestiges of the origin of the universe and for evidences of extraterrestrial life, but they are also after the traces of their faith. Are these two things contradictory? They think that they can complement with each other, but one cannot explain what the other can. And here, in this inhospitable desert, 15,000 kilometers from Rome, they have built a watchtower. Technology seems to have replaced the prayer, and the need of scientific proof is becoming a threat to the dogmas. Since always, men have searched the skies for the answers they have not found on Earth. The origins of astronomy are as old as the foundational cultures, and the first civilizations from the ancient Mesopotamia, the Egypt of the Pharaohs, the Athens of the Greeks, or the Maya in Central America. They have all looked up the sky to get the myth and gods from it, and they looked so much that finally they got to see something.
You know, I think that partially it was for practical reasons that we were interested in the stars and the planets and the moon, the phases of the moon, for very straightforward economic reasons, for agriculture, for the migrations of the herds, We wanted to know where the food would be or how to get it.
The sky was the clock, the sky was the calendar, the sky was the map. So humans depended on the sky just to live. So it was very practical. But then in the night, in the evening, you know, you would tell stories about the stars, about the sky. The sky was the source of things you didn't understand, mystery.
I think they tried to find greater meaning, no matter whether we're scientists or philosophers, religious or not religious. I think all people are trying to find some sort of meaning to why we're here. And is this all there is?
Today, of course, we understand that Earth is just a planet going around the Sun, and the Sun is just one star in an ordinary galaxy, which we call the Milky Way. And we have a very different perspective. But still, we're drawn to seek answers by looking beyond the Earth, beyond our daily lives. So we've inherited this mystical view of the universe, that somehow the answers lie in the heavens.
The first astronomers were able to distinguish between stars and planets, and Hipparchus of Rhodes, in the year 134, had discovered a new star that shines so much that it could also be seen in broad daylight. Even earlier in Greece, the first theories that explain the origin and how the cosmos works were about to appear.
The greatest achievement can be laid at the feet of the pre-Socratic philosophers who had this one very revolutionary, brilliant idea, which was, in explaining how things came to be, you could not resort to God as an answer. That was the one thing you couldn't do.
In the 8th century BC, Thales of Miletus would state that the firmament was a water vault and that the earth had a lenticle shape. Philolaus of Tarentum would correct him, formulating the idea that the earth was spherical, and Plato and Aristotle would suggest the first cosmological models according to which God would be all and one, the center of the universe. During the first Middle Ages, artists would make their best contributions when they favored the astronomical observations. They needed to fulfill the mandates of the Quran, which prescribes the time to pray according to the sunrise and the sunset hours.
At that time, you know, in the Middle Ages and moving into the Renaissance, astronomy was considered an essential part of the philosophy of nature.
And it was really only at the time of the Renaissance that men like Galileo, for example, wanted to connect what happens on Earth with what happens in the sky. That it would be the same set of laws, the same scientific principles that governed what happens on Earth would also govern the stars and the planets.
Although the current Vatican Observatory was not created until 1891, the Church started to get involved in astronomy when the study of heaven was still a part of the natural philosophy. The question was a significant one as basis for the theological studies, and since the Middle Ages there were in Rome observatory places called people observatories.
Long before Galileo and long before the Vatican Observatory, the Vatican city-state was much larger in the past than it is now. It was probably had much of Rome as part of it, and it had separate observatories in different places that were called papal observatories.
When the Pope Leo XIII founded the observatory, which he called Specula Vaticana, he decided that a little tower made of stone near St. Peter's Abbey would be the headquarters. And he did something that would also be written in history. He assigned the Jesuits as the leaders of that project.
I Gesuiti nascono come un ordine scientifico, filosofico, teologico, un ordine insegnante e missionario. La loro vocazione è di adottare tutto ciò che l'uomo crea di nuovo, di bello, di interessante, a gloria di Dio.
Desde que entramos al noviciado, desde que comenzamos la formación, estamos como entrenados para buscar a Dios en todas las cosas.
Until that moment and for many centuries, the Church had been clung to the Aristotelian explanation and to St. Thomas' premises, and, as an institution, it had rejected to see in the heights of the sky any other thing but the Creator's domain. Science only had to keep the appearances, and scientists were not allowed to search for the truth. One of the first to rebel against it, at the beginning of the 1500s,